very good morning to you, and thanks for joining us on The Breakfast this morning. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Today is the 5th of February 2025. Well, that means it's like 9 days to Valentine's Day. I hope that you remember the story of Valentine's. Valentine's is not balance time where you balance whatever you're owing. That's not what it is. It's a time of love, and love doesn't have to be in very elaborate gifts, but love has to do with your heart. How much are you giving? How much of your heart are you giving to that person that you love? And it doesn't also have to be only to the person that you are having a relationship. You can also show love, just like we show at Christmas and at Ramadan, to the people that are in need at that time. Remember, one of the stories about Valentine's is the fact that someone, when it was nearly impossible for love to exist, for people to marry secretly at the risk of his own life, made sure that couples that were in love with each other were able to marry. So he risks that for the sake of other people who should be happy. What are you risking for someone else to be happy? That's a question you'll be asking yourself as we journey to that day that everybody sees as the day of love. So Valentine's, happy Valentine's to you. I'm an old man, so I might forget on that day to say happy Valentine's. So 9 days to the time is not too early. Anyway, on the program this morning, we're going to be looking at the fact that the federal government has claimed that they spent 200 billion naira monthly on electricity subsidy. That is according to Tinubu's aid. We also are going to look at the 7 summits, the ascent of Mount Everest. There's someone who is challenging Mount Everest, as it were, and that is a very, very young Nigerian. He wants to go to the apex of that mountain and show the Nigerian spirit. So we'll all rally around him, and we'll just get into his mind to see what motivated him to do what he's planning to do right now. Okay. We also are going to have top trending issues, and then we'll go to the press and see what we can lift off the press, the headlines that made it to the front pages of some of our national dailies. In the meantime, I'll once again say welcome to the program, and let's take a pause and take the quote for the day. Our quote for today is from Virgil, and Virgil says, "The greatest wealth is health." In case you didn't hear that, the greatest wealth is health. And now, it didn't say the greatest wealth is money. It didn't say the greatest wealth is gold. The greatest wealth is health. And like they say in other words, or when the words are turned around, you say health is wealth. And that is so true. You ask yourself this question this morning: how much are you paying attention to your health? A lot of people do not pay attention to health. In fact, there are jokes that some people make, and they say, "I don't go to the hospital because when I go to the hospital, they tell me I'm dying the next day." But you know what? Whether you go to the hospital or not, if you're dying the next day, you are dying the next day. But if you go to the hospital, there's a possibility you can prevent that. And not only that, people are being advised to eat right, to live right, exercise when you're supposed to exercise, eat what you're supposed to do, and all that. Unfortunately, now people eat for status, not for health. So you're going to eat that pizza, and you're leaving the vegetable soup because you feel that vegetable soup is a local thing. A pizza is something that shows that you have a lot of money, but you don't consider whether it is healthier than the soup that you're leaving but you go ahead and show the world that you're so good. You carry your kids to a mall, you buy all the soda in this world and give to them. You don't consider whether it is good or it is bad for them. It doesn't matter. And then your children are looking obese, and you say you want to show the world that they're feeding well. You think that size means that you're feeding well. So you have to think about your health. Every once in a while, do a checkup of your heart, your whatever you can do. It doesn't mean that when you go to the hospital, you're dying. But that's the mentality we've had here in Nigeria, where people, when you hear that I went to the hospital, they're like, oh, God have mercy. Oh, God, welcome back from the death if you've come back from the hospital. That's not the attitude that we should have. But it's not all cases that land you in hospital, at least the ones that you can do for yourself. Exercise, eat the right food at the right time, at the right amount, and all that. Don't give me the saying that you have big bones. What do you mean by big bones? Have you ever seen a skeleton with big bones? There's no skeleton with big bones. The skeletons are the same. You can't see one and say, oh, this one must have had big bones, and that's why he was fat when he was small or when he was alive. You can never see that. So don't delude yourself with big bones. Maybe it's some kind of hereditary thing, but you can work on it. We've seen people who have really worked on themselves and cut down and all that. I'm not saying that when you're big or on the big side, you're necessarily unhealthy, but I'm saying things that are preventable, go ahead and prevent them. Things that are not preventable, then go ahead and manage them. But the bottom line is you are as wealthy as you are healthy. And in other words, you are also as healthy as you are happy. You don't have to go and meet one babalawo that, okay, I'll give you one of my fingers, or I'll give you my head, and my scalp will now be rotting so that I can have a lot of money and all that. That's extreme anyway. But as much as possible, take care of your health, because that is the greatest asset that you have, your health. He who is alive is the one that can prosper. He who is alive is the one that can, enjoy the good things of life. Don't die young just because you want to make so much money. Some people pursue money so much that they don't live life. They forget to live life. And living life is not living a life of, what does the Bible call it? Debauchery or something? But let's leave that for another day. Just take care of your health, and every other thing shall be added onto you, as it were. Okay, we go straight to our top trending issues. And the first one here is that the federal government has officially prohibited the export of crude oil allocated to domestic refineries, aiming to enhance local refining capacity, reduce reliance on imported petroleum products, and stabilize foreign exchange. Previously, about 500,000 barrels per day meant for local refineries were being diverted to the international market. Acting through the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, the government warned that export permits will be denied for crude oil cargoes originally intended for domestic use. Any changes to designated crude oil shipments must receive express approval from the NUPRC chief executive. At a recent meeting with over 50 industry stakeholders, both producers and refiners blamed each other for supply inconsistencies under the Domestic Crude Supply Obligation (DCSO) policy. Refiners claimed that producers preferred to sell crude abroad instead of meeting local supply agreements, while producers argued that refiners failed to meet commercial and operational terms. The NUPRC has now implemented strict regulatory measures to enforce compliance, including the Production Curtailment and Domestic Crude Oil Supply Obligation Regulation 2023. Referencing Section 109 of the Petroleum Industry Act PIA 2021, NUPRC Chief Executive Engineer Gbenga Komolafe emphasized the need for stable supply of crude to domestic refineries to strengthen Nigeria's energy security. The move is also part of the Naira for Crude program, designed to ensure that local refineries pay for crude oil in Naira and sell refined products to marketers in the same currency. The government has reiterated its commitment to enforcing the new policy and penalizing any violations. Who is it that said this? Agreement is agreement. Was it a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo? A lot of times it is credited to him. I don't know whether he said it, but there's also a musician that sang agreement, now agreement. If you've entered into agreement, fulfill it. But there's somewhere along the line, someone is neglecting their duty. So actually people give permits for these things to be diverted. I think that's where we should start to treat the rot in that system. If there's been an agreement that a percentage is coming to the local refiners so that the energy sector can be boosted locally, then why are they not keeping it? We should stop the blame game. You are not meeting your obligations here, and the other person is also blaming another group. You are not meeting your obligations here. Then who is it that should stand in the middle and make sure that these people meet their obligations? Normally, it will be more lucrative to sell to foreign bodies from Nigeria because you'll earn in foreign currency. But if you have had an agreement with the federal government to do a particular thing, you do it. That's what is done. You do it. And if the person who is supposed to gain this, to receive this, is not doing their own obligation, there are places to report to. There are places to go to hold these people responsible or accountable for what they're supposed to do or what they're not doing. So why keep diverting our crude, and someone is giving permits, and it's only now that they're being warned that the licenses could be denied and could be denied. They are not even saying they shall be denied or they must be denied or something. They're just saying they could be denied if they don't do their responsibilities. Put your foot down if you are the regulatory body and make sure things are working correctly. Dangote refinery is there. The Bua refinery is there or is about to be there. The national refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and hopefully one day in Kaduna will all come on stream. So if the oil supposed to be for the local consumption is diverted to foreign lands just because there will be more money that will be made in harder currency than ours, then there's going to be a problem. So put your foot down, regulatory bodies and enforcement agencies, to make sure things are done well. He who should receive should do what they need to do, and he who should give should do what they need to do. A simple thing. Agreement is agreement. Okay, the second top trending issue is that the Federal Executive Council, FEC, has approved 4.8 billion naira for the procurement of 150,000 HIV treatment packs to ensure continued care for people living with HIV in Nigeria. This decision follows concerns over Donald Trump's executive order, which temporarily suspended funding to a donor organization supporting the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief, PEPFAR, in Nigeria. The move highlights the government's commitment to strengthening domestic funding for HIV treatment as global aid dynamics shift. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare Mohammed Pate emphasized that while international donors like PEPFAR have played a vital role, the Nigerian government is now taking proactive steps to sustain treatment efforts. He reassured stakeholders that life-saving HIV treatments will remain accessible despite uncertainties surrounding foreign aid. Over the years, PEPFAR has been instrumental in Nigeria's fight against HIV/AIDS, providing billions of dollars in funding and supporting millions of patients. Although Trump's order temporarily halted PEPFAR's operation, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently issued an emergency humanitarian waiver, allowing the program to resume in Nigeria and 54 other countries. In response to these fluctuations in international support, the Nigerian government is developing a transition and sustainability plan to address potential funding shortfalls and ensure uninterrupted treatment for those affected. Well, maybe Trump is just the trigger for Africa to stand up and do the needful. And I'm really glad that because of all this dust that has been raised by the U.S. president, Nigeria and African countries have begun to think for themselves, more or less. It would be a bad thing if America really withdraws abruptly like that, but it's also a good thing that it has put our leaders on their toes. I was watching a video yesterday or the day before where the South African president was responding to the allegations by Trump, the U.S. president, that South Africa is being racist. They are taking lands from people and all whatnot. And because of that, he's going to cut funding to South Africa. And he said that South Africa is ours. It belongs to us. We're not doing what you accused us of doing, but stick to your America and let South Africa be. Well, that's new on me for an African leader to stand up to an American president and say what he said. Whether tomorrow they'll go behind and say something else and sign agreements, go cap in hand begging, does not matter. At least for one time, they have been able to, someone has been able to stand up to their billing and say that, you know what, we're putting our foot down. This is our country. And that's the same thing that has happened in the 3 countries of the Sahel region, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and all that. They have come together and say, you know what? If we are going to be partners with the West, we should be partners and not a master-slave relationship that we've been having now. You know that all the Francophone countries didn't have their own central bank. They had it in France. It was more or less like a continuation of the slavery that we had then, or the colonization that we had then, and they didn't have any form of freedom. So they just put their foot down and said, okay, we are not going to have that relationship with you anymore. If you have to trade with us as equal partners, or get out of our land. And they're surviving. One of the countries has paid off all their debt. I mean all, not a little bit of it, all of their debt. We know that in the coming months and the coming years, there's going to be a lot of violence and unrest in those countries, funded by these world powers that have been ejected from there. Whether we like it or not, these are things that happen. You call it a conspiracy theory or not, but as long as we have the mineral resources, the things that can be used by the West, they will do everything within their power to make sure they penetrate and get whatever they want to get to their advantage. So the earlier we wake up and find out that the black African continent is ours and we are the only ones that can develop it, and we have to be strong about it, then the better for us. So let's just do the needful and make sure that our continent grows better and better every day. And we'll take this again. The Edo State Inland Revenue Service, EIRS, has announced that the state's internally generated revenue, I.G.R, exceeded 10 billion naira in January, surpassing earlier projections. EIRS Chairman Honorable Oladele Bankole Balogun attributed this milestone to the leadership of Governor Monday Okpebolo, who tasked the new board with a clear mandate to boost revenue for the state's development projects. During a courtesy visit to Edo State, the Commissioner of Police, CP Betty Enekwen Otimeyin, Bankole Balogun emphasized the need for continued collaboration between the EIRS and law enforcement agencies to ensure tax compliance and enforcement. He highlighted that sustaining this revenue growth is crucial for the state's economic development. CP Otimeyin commended the EIRS for its efforts and pledged the police command's support in maintaining compliance. Prior to this, the EIRS board also engaged with the Department of State Security Services, DSS, to seek further collaboration in enhancing revenue collection and enforcement measures. Okay, it's a good thing that the revenue has gone up. We commend the Edo State government. I wish we can get to a place where we don't have to need the security agencies to enforce this compliance. When everything is digitalized, just a few cases will arise where people will have to be gone after before they can do what they're supposed to do. And another thing is, if it is very transparent what the government does with our money, then people will be happy to pay, because you know that when you're paying these taxes, you are seeing schools. Your children are going to school, maybe even for free. You're seeing roads, you're seeing bridges, you're seeing hospitals, you're seeing a lot of things. But here you don't get to see that. You just see National Assembly has budgeted XYZ amount of money that is more than the Ministry of Education is having. That is more than the Ministry of Health is having. That is more, for less than 1,000 people, they are making more money than some ministries and departments. So it's a very bad thing when you see that. One person is buying one car in the National Assembly that can feed a local government for 1 month. It doesn't sound right. So if we're transparent enough, we are digital enough, a lot of these things will be things of the past. Well, we don't need to go to the police and say, help us enforce. Go to the DSS and say, help us enforce. Everything is there on screen. You can see them and you can send messages. You can do what you're supposed to do. You can, go digital. Go transparent. Everything else will fall in place. Let's take this one as the last top trending issue for this morning. The chairman of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, in Ebonyi State, Chinedu Uburu, has revealed that some workers who passed away as far back as 2009 are still receiving salaries from the local government payroll. Uburu made this disclosure during a courtesy visit by executives of the Nigerian Union of Journalists NUJ Ebonyi State Chapter, led by Chairman Samson Wafo in Abakaliki. He explained that the irregularities was uncovered during an ongoing verification exercise aimed to sanitize the state's payroll system. Expressing concerns over the financial strain on local governments, Uburu cited the federal government's new minimum wage policy as a key challenge. He noted that despite these difficulties, efforts are being made to ensure salary payments, urging affected workers to remain patient. The verification, I'm quoting him directly now, the verification exercise is not targeted at anyone. Workers don't realize that council chairmen are actually trying to help them. With the current workforce and the newly signed minimum wage, we are struggling to meet salary obligations. End of quote. Now, the ALGON chairman also commended the NUJ leadership for its commitment to professionalism and acknowledged the media's critical role in ensuring accurate information dissemination. In response, NUJ chairman Samson Wafo reaffirmed the union's commitment to fostering a collaborative relationship with the government. He emphasized that journalism should focus on constructive engagement rather than hostility, ensuring that the media plays its part in Ebonyi's development. Okay, bottom line is that we're talking about people who are dead and gone and still collecting their salaries. So how does the salary leave the coffers of government into the pockets of people who are dead and buried? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. How many heads have rolled so far after that discovery was made? So if 2009, that means 2019, that was 10 years, and right now is 16 years. People who have died 16 years ago are still receiving salaries. Who is receiving the salaries? Is it the families of these people? Is it the people who are in charge of the payroll? Are they the heads of those departments there in the local government? Who are the people receiving these salaries? How is it not possible for these people to trace those who are receiving the salaries and make them pay in any way that they can make them pay? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Even at this time where salary payment is digital and a lot of other things are being done, how are the people able to navigate that system and do what they're doing and making money off government? A lot of things are here to play. Even if it's the family that is collecting this, why are they doing that? People now go make themselves younger every 5 years, so you end up being your first son's age before you retire from work and all that, just because when they retire, they are not going to get their gratuity or their pensions the way that they should get. So they should stay where they are, where they know that they will still collect their salaries and they will keep working forever. In some other countries, people are protesting that they added 2 years to the retirement age. They want to retire on time, go and rest and enjoy their money. That thing is not existing in Nigeria, no enjoyment of money. Yet, workers who are suffering, some of them suffered and died without even getting the kind of benefits that they're supposed to get. Their salaries are still being paid to who? These are the people that should be arrested and made to face the law, and Nigerians will see that things like this are happening. But the unfortunate thing is that when you catch them, you will find out that the very people who are supposed to catch them are the ones that are sharing this money with them. And so many things will go wrong. And that's why maybe sometimes these things like this happen. Who is taking this money? It must be someone who came with a complimentary card from one senator or the other, and he was put in the position that he was not supposed to be. He's making returns to someone somewhere. And it's complicated here in Nigeria. Unless we get it right in this corruption thing, then Nigeria will not go anywhere. And unless we get it right in making people pay for bad behavior, then Nigeria is not going anywhere. But it starts with you. It starts with me. If I can do something good in my little corner, then everybody else can say we have contributed to Nigeria's growth. Well, let's take that break now. That's all for top trending issues. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll be going to the papers to see what the headlines are. Stay with us.